All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Arun Gupta from Couchbase, and today I have Geetjun and Eben with me. Hello, Geetjun.
Hello, Aaron. How are you doing?
Good. Hi, Eben.
Hello, good morning.
And Eben and I are sitting in the same room. Excellent. So now, as part of this, this is fifth part of our webinar series. We have been building a Couchbase plugin for NetBeans. As in the process, you are also learning how to do a NetBeans plugin and understand the power of the NetBeans platform as well. So far, Gidjan, myself, and Eben, we have been hacking this together. Gidjan has been coming from the NetBeans platform side. Eben has been providing us code from the Couchbase side of it, and I'm looking from the usability perspective. I'm a pure user, so that's the angle that I'm looking at it. So I think the plugin has been evolving good. And what I'll do is I will actually share my screen for a second. Gidjan does all the heavy lifting anyway. So what I'll do is I will go here, not go full screen, and I will share Couchbase NetBeans plugin. This is the repository where all the source code has been living. One other thing I've been thinking is actually migrate this repo from my personal to Couchbase Labs, because that's where all the Couchbase related projects actually live. So that's going to be useful. Let's see. I'm actually going to stop sharing and let's figure out. Gitchin, so what's the plan for today?
The plan is basically to recap as to where we are. So just to go through the plugin installed into NetBeans and show its features. And then the way forward, to be completely honest, is from this point going to be more and more complicated because we've done all the low-hanging fruit and setting up the infrastructure and creating our initial node hierarchy. Everything from here is going to be kind of uncharted territory in a way. But I have one issue in mind which I would like to discuss with you and Eben, and maybe at this point, I'm running out of knowledge of Cassandra. Of Couchbase. I'm running out of Couchbase knowledge, and I really need your technical input to continue further with this. And I'm hoping to get that from you. And there's one particular issue I'd like to look at, and hopefully maybe we can even implement it, but at least we'll have a look at how we should potentially implement that.
Okay. Eben is really the subject matter expert here, so we will try our best to answer your questions.
Yeah.
So you want to show the capability of the plugins first? What all we have accomplished so far? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so just to talk about where we are. So right now you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I've installed the Couchbase plugin into NetBeans IDE 8.1. I'm using the darker look and feel theme, so it might look different to someone watching this. The features that we have created are, first of all, that you can add a Couchbase node, which means you provide a name and an address and a login and a password, which I've done. Then I have this connection node here, and within that connection, I can see the buckets that are available, and within each of the buckets, I can see the documents. And so here you can see I have 3 documents, and within that, I can see the attributes, and I can drill down even further, and if it's an array, and see the content of that array. We can also open a document. So I'm doing open document now.
Now, if I double click on the document, is the default behavior to expand the document or open the document?
The default, when I double click on it, it expands into this structure. And when I right click on it and I choose open, then it will open. So what you then see is the JSON document, but there's a really cool feature as well. Potentially, we have a very long list of attributes in this tree structure, and you can find from the tree structure where the matching attribute is because of this highlight matching value action. So you can see that the highlight, it's a bit dark in the darker look and feel, but you can see that now the phone attribute is highlighted, And it's also on a double click. So when I double click on address, you can see that now the address attribute is highlighted. So I can very quickly navigate from my structured view into my editor.
Right. So this is something, an analogy of that is, let's say you have 400 Java classes in your jar file, and you are editing a particular file, then you can say, by the way, go ahead, synchronize this file with the actual package name on the Explorer.
Exactly.
Got it.
This is synchronizing between the editor and the structured view. Yep.
Right.
So it's a very small thing, but it's handy. Then the other thing that's been added, or the other thing that we created was this comparison, this diff view. So we can compare documents with each other, and then a diff view opens. And in this case, it's not so interesting, but if we do a query, so this is another topic for another time. We need to work on this as well, but for the moment, this is just the way it's implemented. We get here 2 results, and these 2 are interesting to compare because they're from the same city. So now I compare these documents, and I can see, okay, so here there are interesting differences because a lot of it is very similar. So it's basically just a diff view over those 2 documents. However,
nice.
Okay, so this is basically what we've done. I've skipped a couple of small features, but this is where we are. So what I would like to look at is one specific issue.
Okay.
And that's the issue that you found most recently. Show the list of indexed versus non-indexed buckets. And this is where I need to have knowledge from you guys about what that means and where I can find this kind of code, like where, basically how we would implement this.
Abhinav, this is something based upon the query workbench tool that you created. So you would.
Yes.
So Couchbase has its origins in. Oh gosh, I'm getting.
Yeah, I think you have to. I'll go audio off here. I can't hear you here.
So Couchbase has its origins as a key value store. So
I can't hear it. I can't.
Now I'm still getting a lot of feedback.
You know what? Let me move to a different room. Hold on. That way you can keep.
I'm just muting myself. So if he has any questions, you tell me.
Okay.
So.
But I want to record you as well.
Okay.
So then what I'll do is I will get out. Okay. Let's do it.
Okay. So now I'm not hearing anything. So you'll have to tell me if there are any questions.
No, you will hear it here.
Okay. Couchbase has its origins as a key value store. So as such, it was very, very performant in retrieving a document based only on its key. But that isn't the only way you want to be able to retrieve documents. So it's had support over the years for an increasingly varied number of types of indexes. So one type of index is called a view, which is implemented. Well, I mean, the implementation details aren't important, but what is important is that there are a variety of ways that you can access the documents, not just by the primary key. So it is possible to find out what those indexes are. I usually use there's a nickel query you can run, which is system:indexes. So if you say select star from system:indexes, it will give you a list of all the indexes, which will include what type they are, whether they're a primary index or a secondary index or a view, and it will tell you if the index is new and being constructed or if it's online and available for use. So that is the way you can find out all the indexes that are available that will allow you to look up documents by the fields in the indexes. Now, primary indexes are a little bit different from the way they work in the relational world, in that the primary index is simply a way of doing a sequential scan on the database. Now, sequential scans are sort of terrible and not very performant, and you want to avoid them, but sometimes you can't avoid them. If you're doing ad hoc querying, if you don't know what your indexes should be yet, you need a primary index to be able to iterate over the documents. So the primary index is sort of the thing that you start with, but not something you necessarily want to use in production. It allows you to go over every document in a bucket, but you never ever want to do that in production. So really what you want to have is you want to have indexes on the fields that you'll be using in production queries. So when you
so if I sorry. So if I look at this view here with these buckets, is this indexing per bucket? Like a bucket can be indexed or not indexed?
That's correct. The indexes are per bucket, and an index is either a primary field allowing iteration or a sequential scan over all the documents in a bucket, or an index relates to one or more fields in that bucket. So they will allow you to do fast lookup of documents in that bucket based on the fields specified in the index.
Okay, so now we need to find where in the code. So when I look, for example, at this beer sample bucket, is there a way I can? How can you tell code-wise whether this is indexed or not?
Okay, so
I think by default the beer sample that we install is not indexed.
Yes, that's true. So let's see, what would be the best way to...
Now, Gidgen, is there a way by which I can right-click on a host and maybe issue a nickel query? So something like you were saying, select star from system : indexes. I mean, if we issue a nickel query for a database, I think that might be relevant. Evan, if you want to share your screen.
Yes. Let me just get... there.
I should stop sharing, maybe.
Yeah, it'll automatically do that.
Okay, so now I can share my screen. Okay.
Stop sharing?
Yeah.
And I think I'm sharing.
I stopped sharing.
Very good.
I'm still waiting for Evan's presentation to refresh.
Okay, hang on. Try that again. Specify that I want to share my entire desktop.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the Couchbase Query Workbench.
Now, this comes as
Right.
part of a standard Couchbase install. Now, this is something new that we've introduced in Couchbase 4.5? Or is that part of people who can see that today?
This is new as part of 4.5.
Okay.
So this is a nickel query. You don't have to enter this in the query workbench. You can use any of the APIs for executing nickel queries. You can use the command line tool. Now, when you say select star, it brings back JSON of all the indexes. So in this particular case, I'll view this as a table. It's a little bit easier to see. And you can see that there's a primary index on travel sample. There is another one on beer sample, which allows us to do ad hoc querying on those. And then there's a little bucket called Jarvis, which has a primary index, and it also has an index on business ID.
So what classifies this as a primary index? Now, I mean, I see the name is def_primary, but I could have made it some other name. But what makes it a primary index?
There's an is primary field.
Aha.
Off the screen.
Okay, there you go. That's more clear. Now, Gidgen, I think what you downloaded was Couchbase 4.1 EE, right? I mean, I don't think you downloaded the developer. We downloaded it a few weeks back. By that time, developer preview was not available. So I guess, Evan, what you might have to show is how would, for example, Gidgen do all of this on his machine using CBQ?
Yes. So using CBQ, you could issue these same queries. So you can say...
So maybe you want to guide Gidgen so that he can do that in his machine.
Okay.
So Gidgen, go ahead, share your screen, and then Evan will guide you on how you can do that.
Okay. So what must I do?
You want to start sharing your screen again? Okay. Oh, there you go. So go ahead, Evan. You need to guide him. Where should he go for?
Do you know how to run the CBQ command line query tool?
Probably not.
And if not, then I don't know if the
What is it?
Okay, yes. And since I haven't done that on Windows, perhaps I should just show you.
Well, he should still be able to open up a command prompt, go to the Couchbase server directory, bin directory, and from there fire up, go to the bin directory here, and there should be a CBQ script here.
Yes.
I see it down here in the middle. So if you fire up that script, and that's it. You're in CBQ now.
Okay, yeah. So by default, it's the place you expect. So if you type select star.
What must I type?
Select star from system indexes. And this is also
something
you can do via the
we're still waiting.
The Java SDK.
Yeah, we're still waiting for your screen to refresh. It hasn't shown system:indexes yet.
So select star.
Select star and then system?
No, from.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Okay.
From?
Select star from. Yeah. System:indexes.
Like this.
Yes. And hit semicolon and return.
Semicolon return.
Sorry, is this correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So put a semicolon and then return. You need to end it with a semicolon and then return. Yeah, that's okay. You should be able to do a semicolon here and then do a return as well. That will work as well.
Here, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Select star from system:indexes. So there's already a select.
Yeah, so you're running a select star from.
So this. I don't remember where that is done.
What are you looking for, Gidgen?
I'm looking for code where I'm doing something similar already. Here.
Yes. So that's how you create a primary index.
So that's the point, Evan, you were making earlier, that you showed from Query Workbench, Gidgen tried it with CBQ, but ultimately from the NetBeans perspective, we need to do this from the Java SDK.
Yes.
So this is the code he's going to copy that query over here, and that way he can find out which queries are which buckets are indexed or non-indexed.
Yes, and how they're indexed.
Now, typically, I looked at Query Workbench, and that's why I said, it would be good to have similar features in NetBeans. Now, where should this indexed query and non-indexed query be segregated? Should that be at the per server level, per node level, Couchbase node level? Well, today, if we look at NetBeans, not here, but if I look at NetBeans and it says, oh, here are all the buckets that you have. Should there be a legend that, oh, this bucket is indexed and non-indexed? How would people identify it?
Yes, absolutely. So the indexes on a bucket affect what kinds of access you can have on that bucket. If a bucket has a primary index, you can run any kinds of queries at all, and they may not be particularly fast, but they will run. If you have an index on one or more fields, then queries on those fields will run much faster. And that's certainly what we want for production. And if a bucket has no indexes at all, then the only query you can run related to that bucket is select count star to find out how many documents are there.
Got it. Got it. So I guess, Gijan, then what I would like to see really is, as we are loading a Couchbase host, I would like to see, let's list all the buckets and maybe adopt a different legend or a different logo for the bucket based upon whether it's indexed or not indexed.
And certainly it would be nice to fill in the fields to highlight if those fields are part of an index or not.
Right. So not just buckets, but fields as well.
So here is a bucket. Within the bucket, there's a document. Within the document, there's an attribute. So what level are we talking about?
That the attributes themselves can be indexed. So you could have an index on state or an index on when the document is updated.
Right. So it's only going to be at a bucket level. That bucket has some sort of index. And then the second will be only at the attribute level. There is no document indexing per se.
And so the impact of having an indexed attribute is that it will be easier to find or faster to find?
It will be much higher performance in finding documents by that attribute.
And so in addition to being able to see whether a bucket or an attribute is indexed, we should also, after that, create some functionality for indexing or unindexing something that's been indexed or not indexed.
Right. Yes. Right. I think that would make sense. Yeah.
Okay. Let's first work on the bucket level then. I've searched through the code, and there are two places where I'm using this nickel query.simple call, and I believe these are the two places where. So these are the two places where Couchbase SDK code is used. The document child factory. Okay, so this is for creating the attributes. Wait, this is for. So what happens here? Creating primary index on. Is this what is this doing?
So as I said, the primary index is what allows you to do a sequential scan on the documents of a bucket. So this particular call is creating that primary index so that you are able to retrieve the individual documents from the bucket.
And if we did not do that, if we did not have this this bucket query, what would the
So if you did not have that query, you could not retrieve the individual documents without knowing their keys first. And so now, of course, you only need to do this once. So probably every subsequent time that you run this, if the index is already there, this is probably returning an error. But that's not a problem. It's maybe some unnecessary. It's an unnecessary call if the index is already there.
On this level, we're looking at so these keys are the attributes within the document.
Right.
And on this level, what's going on here is simply a selection within a particular bucket.
Right.
Yes.
Well, actually, I think we need to up-level it from one level above here, because as we are loading the bucket, at that point, before we load the buckets, we need to find out which of the buckets are indexed and not indexed. And then accordingly, yes, when we are showing the list of buckets, at that point of time, we should be saying, oh, you are an index bucket, let me add a green logo. You are a not index bucket, I'm going to drop a simple logo.
So by index bucket, we mean it's a bucket that has at least one indexed attribute?
Correct. Right?
Yeah. So, well, for example, I mean, in your interface here, you allow the user to open up a bucket and see the 3 documents from it, for example. You can't do that if the primary index doesn't exist.
Right.
So up to now, you've been creating the primary index every time, but you can make that an option. You can say, if you want to see the documents from the bucket, you have to create a primary index.
Right, right. So basically, to begin with itself, under a host, you will show all the indexed buckets, with any index over there. There you should be able to see the list of documents. But then otherwise at the bottom, you can say, hey, here is a list of non-indexed buckets. You cannot query them because there is no index on it. And then over there, you give them an option. Oh, by the way, now you can create an index on it.
Okay, so we need to go one level above bucket.
Yeah.
And the level above bucket is connection.
Right.
And connection child factory. So if I'm right, this is where the no, this is not it. Wait. So what creates the bucket? Bucket child factory. Does it create buckets? Okay, so where is bucket child factory code from? That's the question. So we'll find usages. Connection node.
Yeah.
Okay, so within the connection node, we create the bucket. So here is where, okay. So in bucket child factory, we should be able to, okay, so here we are. And we get a bucket. So actually here we remove the default bucket. I guess there's one called default. We remove it.
Now, hold on. So, why do we remove the default bucket?
I'm not sure why. I can't remember. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. But
do you
don't have to remove it.
Yeah, exactly. I was wondering. Do you see a reason it should be or should not be removed?
No, I don't. I mean, the default bucket. A lot of people use that just for development purposes.
Right. Right.
That's the thing. Sometimes it even makes it into production.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we just created a new feature by removing some code.
There you go, man. You got a new bucket now. Yeah. I love that part. Yeah.
Let's try it. Let's try it. Wait, I'm just gonna rebuild the module and then run it, and then NetBeans will start, and we'll see the default bucket. So can we get from the bucket settings to whether the bucket is indexed or not? That would be cool.
Yeah.
Given a settings, can we get to whether that bucket is indexed?
Right. I don't know. We will have to look at the API for that.
Okay. So bucket settings gives me.
It says index replicas. Let me go and take a look at it, what the index replicas, what the API look like. I'll drop you a link to the API. Ethan, I just dropped the link in your Skype for the Java docs, and
cool.
I can look at there.
Skype, okay.
So bucket settings. If I'm looking at bucket settings, the Java doc is not. If replicas are indexed, no, that's not what I want. Bucket type. Not here. Bucket info maybe? Node list, replica count, name.
Yeah, I suspect it's not. I'm not too familiar with that part of the API, but I suspect it's not there because the indexes exist independently of the bucket. So
Okay. What do you mean? So, but index is on a bucket though.
yeah, so an index is associated to a bucket that has an independent life. So it could be that the bucket API doesn't know necessarily about the indexes.
Okay. Okay.
Even though the index knows about the buckets.
Right.
So can we do one of these Nickel queries
Yeah.
to find out whether something is indexed or not?
Yes.
I think that's what
That's what
the
we need to do.
star from system:indexes was.
Right. And you could also do, for example, since select star, or since the results that come back have a field called key space ID, you could say select star from system:indexes where key space ID equals the name of my bucket, and that will tell you if that bucket has indexes or not.
So this now when I execute this query, select star from system:indexes, this is going to give me a JSON.
Yes.
And so I should be in my Java code be able to parse that JSON and then make sense out of it.
Yes.
So here's a bucket. And so what is the query exactly that I should do on that bucket?
So
is that a query on the bucket or on the host itself?
Well, it is a query to the host, so it's a Nickel query. If you want to know if just a bucket has an index, you would say, well, actually, I guess the simplest one would be select count star or count parentheses star close parentheses from system:indexes where key space ID equals the name of your bucket. And
Sorry.
So perhaps I should paste that.
Put it in Skype. Put it in Skype.
Yes. I'll have to paste it to a room and have you paste it on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I guess you guys are not connected yet.
Your Skype handle.
Okay.
Something's happening.
And I'm going to pass it on to you here.
Send you a slight improvement of that.
And what I'll do is I will add Eben here into the conversation.
Okay, excellent.
So we're going to create a group here. Okay. So you're part of the conversation now.
Okay, so the query that I just sent by Skype is one that will return simply an integer that is the number of indexes that are associated with that bucket.
So if that number is more than one,
if it's more than zero,
yeah. If one or more, yeah. Okay.
So this query will be it will be some integer, okay?
Gideon, actually, it's not star. It says count star.
look at the revised query that I sent.
So if you go back to Skype, it will show you the revised query. No, go to the no, not to me, but go to the NetBeans plugin group. Yeah, there you go. And you scroll to the bottom of it. There you go.
Okay.
It's count.
And then you'll also probably need to quote the bucket name. So
like this?
yeah. So when you are formatting the string, can you put the bucket name inside quotes?
So, Gijan, I will give you the exact text you need to put in there.
Alors, contact ouvert, Anne-Elisabeth, c'est en très grande partie grâce aux abeilles.
I gave you the exact text that you need over there.
Okay.
And it's a little funky to escape the bucket name. I don't like that particularly, but we'll live with it for
Well,
now.
I think that's the more elaborate queries that you can create with.
Like this? Wait, no. Still wrong.
And they avoid that.
Yeah, I think it's not liking the quotes. Is it liking the quotes?
Yeah, so I think those are back single quotes. You should use regular single quotes.
Oh, single quotes. Oh, not back single quotes?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Okay. So replace the back quotes with a single quote, I guess.
Okay. So must I cast this query to an int or something, or do I do all rows and then length size? So if it's bigger than 0, then it's indexed, and if not, it's not indexed.
Okay. Well, I guess if you're going to do do it that way. If you're just going to look at the size of the result, then you don't even need the count parentheses star. You can just say star, and then the number of rows that are returned will be what you want.
Right. Right.
So you get live
Yeah.
programming.
So if size is more than 0, then you're indexed, otherwise not.
Okay.
I guess you still add the bucket to the list, but the logo would be a little bit different.
Yeah, sure. Just got to think how to do it. I think we need to create some. Or wait, we can do it down here. I have a better solution. Not here, but in here. The short description is the tooltip on the node. So, and when you hover your mouse over the bucket node, you'll either see the one or the other.
Okay.
So let's do that.
So for now, it's going to be a tooltip, but then later on we can change the logo and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a good stuff. Yeah. One step at a time.
But the point is that aren't we forcing the indexing already over here?
Yes, you are.
So I think in that case we should disable this.
Yes.
Okay.
Disable that. Okay.
But you might want to only do this if the index exists.
Yeah.
Why would we do that if the index already
So if the index doesn't exist, then you don't want to try and retrieve documents because you won't be able to get them.
Right. Now I'm wondering, because the Couchbase server that we are using, the way we are loading the buckets in NetBeans, we would have already created a primary index on them. So won't all the buckets will already have an index?
Yes, so the indexes are persistent. So
Right.
So for this example instance of Couchbase, they already have
Right.
They're already all indexed.
Right.
So we can test that.
They are indexed, yeah. That's true. So now when we hover, you can see not indexed yet. This one, not indexed yet. Not indexed yet. It seems they're not indexed yet.
And I don't see the default bucket as well.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it interesting? Should I reinstall Couchbase, or what should I do you think?
But I think one of the things I can think of is...
Bring up the Couch. Does he have the Couchbase console?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So you can see.
How do I get there again?
Localhost port 8091. Okay, and then there's an index tab there at the top level, two to the right of data buckets. So keep going to the right.
Okay,
keep going to the right. Two.
Where to? Index.
There. Okay, so these it looks like there are indeed primary indexes for. So it could be our code is a flaw in our logic.
Could be. Could be.
Oh, let's see.
But
so,
wait a minute.
Well, one thing I'm looking at the liquor query on line 38, we're still using the back quotes as opposed to the single quote.
Where?
Yeah, these ones right here. So these should be probably single quote. I thought they were back quotes, but what Eben was saying, they should be single. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one thing I can think of. And seems like the result for all of them is indeed.
Yes. The difference between the back quotes and single quotes will make the difference. So with regular quotes it works, and with back quotes it doesn't.
Okay, so I think what Eben just verified in the Couchbase console, and he says the back quote and the single quote should make a difference. So let's try to build this puppy and then try it again.
Sure.
And we still have to debug why our default bucket is not showing up, because we did disable that part of the code.
Yeah, well, if you look in the Couchbase console, I don't see the default bucket here.
Yeah.
So it could be that you removed it at some point.
Okay, that's okay. But at least we are not doing any magic from our side of it. So in that sense, it is consistent with what Scott showed in console. Yeah. Running NetBeans from inside NetBeans feels like Inception.
What?
I'm saying running NetBeans from inside NetBeans, it's almost like Inception.
The Matrix also.
Bring me to the real world.
So here it is.
I'm wondering why does it take so long to? There are only 3 buckets. And you can see clearly that for each bucket, that query is super slow.
It could be that if the query is retrieving all the documents and with
indexed. Now I can see that they're indexed.
Yes.
Bingo. But I guess we definitely want to improve our query,
right,
and see what's a better way.
So, for example, since you're only showing the first 3 documents, you could add a limit clause to the query, and just retrieve those documents that you're going to be showing.
And if the bucket is not indexed, then none of those documents will be returned.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we can do that then. So Gichen, if you go back to your, we can kill this instance of NetBeans, and we can go back to the previous instance. And here at the end, after the bucket.name.
Not here. But when he's actually retrieving the documents, where he has the more complicated nickel query, where he select star from the bucket.
Oh, I see.
Here. Yeah.
Yes. There is a way to specify a limit statement. Now, I haven't played around with the Java.
So how about this? We're coming at the bottom of the hour anyway, but at least the one big thing we did today was we figured out indexed versus non-indexed, and that's a big deal, because then later on we can add more functionality. Let's now create an index. Let's now query some set of documents, nickel editor, and all those fun things. So I think this is sort of a good point for us to wrap up as well. What do you think, Gichen?
So I agree. And what I'll do is I'll change this from the tooltip, and I'll make it the icon. So if it's indexed or not indexed, a different icon will be shown. So that's what I'll do in between now and our next meeting.
Perfect. And in the meanwhile, me and Eben will hack some code together, on how we can optimize. We'll go through this code and see how we can optimize this whole thing a little bit better. Yeah.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
So now the only thing missing for today is if you can push an NBM release and put it on the GitHub repository.
Yeah, I'll do that once I've changed this to show different icons.
Okay, great, awesome, great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.